Will now come to order. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. Councilmember Barosa de Padilla, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This evening, Council is pleased to have Reverend Dr. Judy Alston with us this evening to pray with us. Pastor Judy Alston is the pastoral leadership team at Woodward Christian Church. Thank you for being back with us.
Good evening. Let us pray. Creator, sustainer, and giver of life, we first honor you by giving you thanks for this day and all of its blessings. On this afternoon, as we gather as servants and citizens of the city of Columbus, we pray that we are all ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to our fellow citizens and to this community. Today, we ask blessings on us as we continue to seek your wisdom, guidance, courage, and strength. On this evening, be with counsel in their deliberations and decision-making. Help them to be wise in the decisions that are made for the good of all those who have placed their trust and confidence in their leadership. Give them insight to lead with integrity and knowledge that their decisions may reflect what is right and good for all who live in this city of Columbus. Right now, I pray that in this time of unrest and violence, that the spirit of love, the spirit of community, the spirit of justice will give and take hold of us. We offer this prayer today that each council member be patient, be compassionate, and helpful towards one another and those who are in attendance today. Give them clarity. Give them the potential and the will to change what they can change and to do what they can do to make our city an even better place for all. All of these things we pray in the name that is above all names, the name that we hold sacred and holy, to all that is good and right and true. May it be so. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor. Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor Remy, President Harden. Any person who takes any actions to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12. Any person who enters those areas of city council chambers reserved for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can I get a motion to dispense with the minutes? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor Remy, President Harden.
May I have a motion to accept the minutes? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor Remy, President Harden.
This week's communications received by the city clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the city bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Are there any resolutions or announcements by my colleagues, starting with Councilmember Bankston?
Yes, Council President Harden, thank you. As I am, one resolution, if the folks from Experience Columbus, the Diversity Apprenticeship Program, if you all could come forward at this time while I introduce you. My council colleagues, last year, this body partnered with the county to help fund this apprenticeship program. And tonight we are recognizing the first group of apprentices to graduate from the program. The Diversity Apprenticeship Program focus is to improve the racial diversity of the talent and leadership in the travel and hospitality industry in an effort to create more leadership pathways for people of color. Experience Columbus and the Greater Columbus Sports Commission, in collaboration with Tourism Diversity Matters, launched the Diversity Apprenticeship Program this past fall. This program provides paid, hands-on, on-the-job experience for people who identify as Black, Indigenous, or person of color to work across multiple departments in the travel industry organizations. Upon successfully completing the program, each apprentice is offered a full-time position at one of the participating partner host locations. The participating host locations include groups such as the Columbus Regional Airport Authority, Cameron Mitchell Restaurants, the Blue Jackets, Experience Columbus, and many, many more. Tonight in Chambers, we have 5 of the apprentices who are graduating from the program, along with their program director, Ms. Shannon Jones. And these individuals, I want to make sure that it's on the record and that we recognize them. So we have Ms. Ufa Amisha Agre. I said it wrong.
Efwa.
Sorry, thank you. Efwa. Thank you. Efwa Amisha Agre, Ms. Maya Gordon, Mr. Brendan Hopper, Mr. Henry Lachike, and Ms. Alicia Norman. So if we could just give them a round of applause really quickly. And at this time, I want to turn it over to Ms. Jones just to tell us a little bit more about the program and give us some remarks. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for welcoming Experience Columbus, the Greater Columbus Sports Commission, and the Diversity Apprenticeship Program to your council meeting. We are thrilled to be able to share with you an overview of the program, provide an update, and introduce you to our amazing first cohort of apprentices that will be graduating from the program later this week. For those of you that don't know, my name is Shannon Jones, and I'm the Director of DE&I Programming at Experience Columbus, and I've had the absolute privilege of managing the Diversity Apprenticeship Program since its onset in July of 2021. First, I'll start with a brief overview of the program. This program was created by an organization called Tourism Diversity Matters. Their main goal is to help tourist organizations be more intentional about their DE&I efforts. They have 4 pillars that they focus on, one of which is the Diversity Apprenticeship Program. Experience Columbus's CEO, Brian Ross, heard about the program and immediately wanted to bring it to Columbus. He pitched the idea to the City of Columbus, Franklin County, and the Columbus Foundation, and we graciously received funding for the program for the next 2 years. The travel, tourism, hospitality industry is a great industry, but like many industries, racially diverse talent and leadership are vastly underrepresented. Most of the diversity that exists in this industry are in entry-level positions, but the higher you go up in those organizations, the people become more male and more white. This program was designed to create a pipeline for minority individuals to gain access to mid-level positions so they could help shape the overall culture of these organizations. The Diversity Apprenticeship Program itself is a paid, hands-on, on-the-job experience for those who identify as BIPOC to work across multiple departments in the travel industry. Upon successfully completing 600 working hours over 6 months, the apprentice is offered a full-time manager-level position or higher at one of the participating partner locations. The goal is to find, maintain, and position BIPOC individuals for long-term professional success in the travel industry. Although apprentices are hired by Experience Columbus during the apprenticeship, they spend their time at various host sites across the city. We could not be more grateful for these local organizations that chose to be part of the program. Host sites that have welcomed apprentices during our first 2 cohorts include Experience Columbus, the Greater Columbus Sports Commission, Greater Columbus Convention Center, Hilton Downtown, Hilton at Easton, COSI, Franklin Park Conservatory, the Hyatt, Concord Hotels, Columbus Regional Airport Authority, Cameron Mitchell Restaurants, Sonesta Hotels, and Levy Restaurants. Our first cohort launched in September of 2021 with 6 apprentices. I'm happy to report that 5 out of the 6 apprentices are still in the program and will graduate in a few days. I'll let them introduce themselves as well as share where they have accepted their full-time positions.
Hi, my name is Alicia Norman, and I will be working at Experience Columbus.
Hi, my name is Afua Misa Agre, and I'm at the Columbus Regional Airport Authority.
Hello, my name is Maya Gordon. I'll be working at Hyatt Regency downtown Columbus.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brendan Hopper, and I'll be working at the Greater Convention Center.
Hello, everybody. My name is Henry Lachica. I'll be working at Greater Columbus Convention Center. Thank you.
Our second cohort launched in January of 2022. 5 new apprentices have started with an expected completion date of July of 2022. The application for our third cohort will open next week. Our goal is to have a total of 32 apprentices by the summer of 2023. And even though this program is currently only funded for 2 years, our hope is to continue it well beyond that to ensure long-lasting and immeasurable impact in our industry as well as Columbus as a whole. Finally, I'm also thrilled to share that PR News has nominated our program as a finalist for the Social Impact Award, which highlights innovative organizations and initiatives who are driving DE&I forward in their communities. This nomination proves how important and timely equity in the workplace is, not only in Columbus, but nationally. Again, on behalf of Experience Columbus, the Greater Columbus Sports Commission, and these amazing apprentices, we cannot thank the City of Columbus enough for supporting this program. We could not be more grateful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you all, and I'll have you remain there. If there are any comments or questions from my colleagues? All right. Well, I just want to say again, thank you all for being a catalyst. And as you know, as we continue to grow as a city, this industry is a very important one to us. And so it's important that we're intentional to make sure that the folks that are behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, welcoming our people, visitors to the city, look like Columbus. So much, thank you guys so much, and congratulations. I, at this time, Council President, will move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted. Congratulations.
And that is all I have for resolutions and announcements. Thank you, Council President.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Barosa de Padilla.
Good evening, Council President. I do have 2 announcements and 1 resolution this evening. First, I want to acknowledge that March 15th was All Women's Equal Pay Day. Women on average make 83 cents for every dollar a man makes, which translates to an average loss of $10,000 or more to the wage gap each year, the equivalent of several months of rent and childcare and upwards of $1 million over the course of a lifetime. An investment in women is an investment in families and in our community. The equal pay days that we elevate here are not just about building awareness, but it's also serves as a call to action. And here's a few things that we can all do to ensure equal pay for all. First, advocate to our legislators to pass the Paycheck Fairness Act, which would close loopholes that allow employers to pay women less and bar employers from asking about salary history. Secondly, advocate to our state legislators to raise the minimum wage. Third, advocate for our employers to run equity pay reviews to ensure that employees are paid fairly. Achieving equal pay is an all-in effort that we must all advocate for, and I look forward to continuing to partner with all of you to ensure that equal pay for women is achieved in my lifetime, certainly. Secondly, I would like to also give a big congratulations to the 16 appointments that are on the consent agenda today for the Franklinton, Far South, and South Side area commissions. I often say that our neighborhoods are the heartbeat of our city. It's where our people live, play, and build community. We deeply appreciate our neighbors who care for our community and make our city better through their service as an area commissioner. So congratulations to all those folks. And lastly, I have one resolution, 0044X2022, to recognize March as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month is a nationwide event aimed at raising awareness about inclusion of people with developmental disabilities in all aspects of community life and the barriers that people with disabilities still face today. From mobility to accessibility, inclusion and representation are still barriers that people with disabilities confront on a daily basis. Advocacy organizations throughout Central Ohio empower individuals and their families both to advocate for themselves and to seek long-term solutions through systems change, helping to create an environment of self-sufficiency, self-determination, inclusion, and acceptance. These organizations and activists play a critical role as innovators in the development of people-centered systems. With us today is one of those advocates. Christine Brown is an original member of the Franklin County Board of Developmental Disabilities Self-Advocate Advisory Council and a public policy advocate that works tirelessly to improve the lives of people with disabilities. I'm proud to welcome Christine Brown to accept this resolution.
Thank you. Yes, this is the Developmental Disability Awareness Month. Also, to tell you all this month also is the 10-year anniversary of the Employment First executive order that our past Governor John Kasich signed. Believe that, how time flies. And we have really seen a lot come over this time. We really have seen people get more independent in seeing their skills move up. As you all know, the pandemic we've been in really did make people have a time of grief and change. But the thing is, we got through it, thankfully. So we are hopeful that things will improve. And starting July 1st this year, self-directed transportation is becoming an option for people on all waivers, home and community-based waivers for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. That's getting to use like Uber, Lyft, Yellow Cab. So that's a way they don't need to rely always on the staff to drive them. More self-determination to make it done. And so thank you for this, because we are hopeful that everything is gonna go smooth. And thank you, Jed Morrison and us, thank you for this resolution.
Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Yes.
Thank you, Councilmember, for bringing this resolution. But I just want to thank Ms. Christine for your relentless advocacy. Since I've been on council, you have, one, reminded us each year that this month is important, that needs to be highlighted, and the important role and responsibility that city and state and federal government has in protecting, but also creating space for our residents with learning disabilities in different capacities. And so just appreciate you, and certainly send our appreciation to Mr. Jed Morrison. He's a good friend of this council and this city, so thank you.
Thanks. And I had told President Hardin this, that we have at my job at the Ohio State University Niswonger Center, we have a smart home discovery place. That's where it's smart technology. We would be interested to let to 3 council members tour, because we have smart stoves where there's auto shutoffs. You can even say, Alexa, turn off the light, and it does it. And one thing, I know I hear this constantly on the news, Columbus crime rate going haywire. Well, what about getting cameras in these houses, even in low-income housing, so then people see who's at the door before even answering? That would improve health and safety for all citizens. So it's something to consider, and we are open to showing you all the options out there to improve every life for Ohioans and the Columbus citizens.
Christina, I just want to echo Council President's remarks. Thank you. I want to come visit that smart home, and I just want to thank you for ensuring that all of our citizens are seen and that they are heard, and that creating a sense of belonging for all means creating access for all. So thank you for your advocacy. I move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the roll. By voice, please.
Mr. Bankston? Yes. Ms. Barosa de Padilla?
Yes.
Ms. Brown? Yes. Mr. Dorans? Yes. Ms. Faber? Mr. Remy? Yes. President Harden?
Yes. Ordinances are adopted.
Thank you. And that is all for me this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember. President Pro Tem.
I just have one thing I wanted to add to Councilmember Barosa de Padilla's acknowledgement of Equal Pay Day, which is to acknowledge that for those of you out there looking for ways to advocate with your employers, which first and foremost, there should be the structural legal foundation to ensure equal pay without folks needing to win the boss lottery, right, to get it. But for people looking for those tools, the Columbus Commitment is the voluntary pledge led by the Women's Commission and by Shannon Ginther, the mayor's spouse, who put this together close to 5 years ago. And if you go onto the website for the Columbus Commitment, you can find some tools for advocating directly with your employer. And I think it's really useful. And I just wanted to call that out for folks who are looking to dive deeper in their own place of employment.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. Councilmember Dorans. Councilmember Faber.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Just a brief acknowledgement. So as we begin to round out Women's History Month, I want to acknowledge the historic moment that is upon all of us. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson made history last month when President Biden nominated her to become the 116th Associate Judge of the United States Supreme Court. A Harvard University graduate and law school graduate, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson served as an editor of the Harvard Law Review and began her legal career with 3 clerkships, including one with U.S. Supreme Court Associate Justice Stephen Breyer. Along with a long list of accolades, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson has served as a federal judge on the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit since 2021. This moment is historic because she will be the first African-American woman to go through the confirmation hearing process. And if confirmed, she will not only be the first African-American woman to serve on the Supreme Court, but also the first Supreme Court justice to ever have served as a public defender. As an African-American, a woman, and as an attorney, I cannot express how important this moment truly is for women all over the world. So please join me in wishing Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson a smooth confirmation hearing process. I'm not sure if anyone's ever watched them, but I have. And they can get a little contentious. And you can tune in to watch all week long on all major news outlets. That's all. Oh, I'm sorry. If any of my colleagues would like to say anything about Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Excited to watch.
Thank you for highlighting this, though. It's really important. Absolutely. And I know that a lot of folks around the country are rooting for her and really appreciative for what this means for our history. It's always evolving. And it doesn't get perfect, but it gets better. So, thank you. Councilmember Remy.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. I have two announcements this evening. First, I will be hosting a public safety public hearing tomorrow, March 22nd, from 4 to 5:30. During this hearing, we will discuss the acquisition of the next iteration of body-worn, in-car, and interview room camera systems for the Division of Police. This hearing will be live via Facebook, YouTube, and CTV Channel 3. To provide testimony via WebEx during the hearing, please email Lucy Frank at ljfrank@columbus.gov by noon tomorrow, Tuesday, March 22nd. Also, I'd like to let everyone know that I will be hosting community hours this Thursday, March 24th from 4:30 to 6 via Zoom. For anyone interested in joining us, please RSVP again to Legislative Assistant Lucy Frank at ljfrank@columbus.gov to receive the Zoom information. Thank you, Council President Harden. That is all I have this evening.
Thank you, Council Member. I have a revolution. I have a resolution. And I'd like to invite Wendy Bradshaw, Ryan Wilkins, and team to the podium. As I read Resolution 48X-2022, in honor of the 40th anniversary of the Ronald McDonald House in Columbus, Ohio, and the groundbreaking for a major expansion of the Ronald McDonald House. The Ronald McDonald House is a home away from home for families of hospitalized children in our city. The Ronald McDonald House in Columbus opened its doors to families on March 17, 1982, and has served more than 1 million families since it opened its doors. This week, March 23rd, at the Ronald McDonald House is the groundbreaking of a major expansion. So be it resolved by this council of the City of Columbus that this council does hereby recognize and congratulate Ronald McDonald House Charities of Central Ohio on its 40th anniversary and its exciting expansion. I know that several of my colleagues have had a chance to tour the current building and are excited about the expansion. We know the role that Ronald McDonald House plays for families who are dealing with some of the hardest things that a parent would have to deal with. This is the health of their child, and we're just grateful for the role that the charity plays in supporting those families through some of their most difficult times. First, are there any questions or comments from my colleagues before I turn it over? Please.
And you'll probably speak to this, so I don't want to take talking points, but is it not still the largest Ronald McDonald House in the world?
Almost.
Almost.
We were. We will be again.
All right.
Expansion will make us the largest again.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate the work that you do, and was happy to serve meals there when I was in the Columbus Realtors Leadership Academy. We're going to have to get our group in there. It's a lot of fun. If I could ever find a spot, I think that you guys don't need more volunteers to do that necessarily, but we do. Okay. So we'll be glad to get a group together and do it. It is a lot of fun, and it's obviously a very worthwhile cause. So thank you very much to Council President Harden for bringing this forward.
That's awesome. We'll turn it over to
I'll do it.
I love it.
We're just incredibly grateful for this opportunity and, to share this wonderful story with you all. As President Harden said, we are expanding the Ronald McDonald House, and we'll be adding an additional 80 guest rooms, which will put us at 202 guest rooms under one roof. So essentially view us as a mid-sized hotel that families, are never charged for services. They stay on average about 8 nights with us, but we have had families live with us as long as 2 years. So the impact on that, is pretty significant. I know Ryan and others can speak to the fact that we've literally watched children grow up with us at the house. Some who've come when they're toddlers who are now driving that we're still trying to process how that happened too. But really it's through the support of the community that we're able to do this. And we're just so proud of the efforts that we've done, through a pandemic to raise nearly $36 million to support this expansion. So we're grateful for this and for all that you guys do for the community.
Well, with that, we're very grateful for everything you're doing for these families, and we're so excited, so happy to have you in our community. It's the greatest representation. With that, I move for adoption. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Thank you. Thank you.
And lastly, I want to, so Ohio State University gave us a smiley face this weekend and a sad face this weekend. We didn't make it to the Sweet 16, the men's basketball, but our women's hockey team just became national champions, and for that, we should celebrate. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Hopefully we get the chance to bring them down, actually, to recognize them. But it's a historic achievement for the lady hockey players. With that, are there any comments by our elected officials or members of the administration who may be online with us? The attorney, city auditor, any judges? Seeing none, are there any requests by members of council for removal of an item from the consent portion of the agenda? May we now have a motion to waive reading of the titles of 30-day legislation by the city clerk? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation?
Economic Development Committee, Ordinance 661-2022 and 664-2022. Technology Committee, Ordinances 561 and 605-2022. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Ordinances 721 and 739-2022. Finance Committee, Ordinance 680 and 745-2022. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinances 469, 512, 515, 521, 575, 577, 581, 597, 644, and 743-2022. Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee, Ordinances 627 and 645-2022. Health and Human Services Committee, Ordinance 749-2022.
Do we have any speakers on first reading? No. The following ordinances appear on our agenda as consent action. Will the clerk now read those into the record?
Resolutions of expression 50X and 46X and 47X-2022. Economic Development Committee, Ordinances 643, 670, 736, 737, 741-2022. Small and Minority Business Committee, Ordinances 509, 612, 613, 614, 615, 618, 619-2022. Technology Committee, Ordinances 327, 621, 637, 704-2022. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Ordinances 482, 593, 599, 629, 679, 685, and 753-2022. Veterans and Senior Affairs Committee, Ordinances 623 and 624-2022. Finance Committee, Ordinances 601, 625, 672-2022. Recreation and Parks Committee, Ordinances 164, 568, 571, and 665-2022. Education Committee, Ordinance 572-2022. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinances 337, 533, 594, and 603-2022. Housing Committee, Ordinances 735 and 759-2022. Health and Human Services Committee, Ordinances 607, 632, 650, 690, and 801-2022. Public Safety Committee, Ordinances 525 and 611-2022. Administration Committee, Ordinances 681, 682, and 689-2022. Appointments from the Mayor's Office numbered A0059, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, and 89-2022.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on the consent agenda? Seeing none, may we have a motion of approval by voice? Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Mr. Bangston? Yes. Ms. Barosa de Padilla?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes, with the exception of 618, 623, and 624, on which I'm abstaining.
Mr. Dorans?
Yes.
Ms. Favor?
Yes, with the exception of Ordinance 0632-2022.
On which you're abstaining. Can you add that?
It would be nice to note what I'm doing with that one, on which I'm abstaining. Thank you.
And Mr. Remy and President Harden.
Yes.
Thank you.
We will now proceed with the second reading. First reading coming before council is a small minority business committee chaired by Councilmember Bankston. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Harden. Tonight in the Small and Minority Business Committee, for second reading, we have Ordinance 0616-2022 to authorize the Director of Development to enter into a contract with the Capital Crossroads Special Improvements District of Columbus, Inc. for the implementation of services set forth in the district plans for services, to authorize and direct the city auditor to appropriate and expend up to $3,100,000 for assessments levied from property owners, and to declare an emergency. The Capital Crossroads Special Improvement District is an association of 500 commercial and residential property owners in the core 38 blocks of downtown Columbus. This ordinance is simply the annual disbursement for that special improvement district. You will notice on the consent agenda, we had several other disbursements on the agenda tonight, but given the area and the properties this CID covers, the disbursement is far larger than the others, pushing it past the threshold to have it on consent. This is also the same case for the Discovery Special Improvement District, which is the next item on the agenda. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, in the Small and Minority Business Committee, we have Ordinance 0617-2022 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a contract with the Discovery Special Improvements District of Columbus, Inc. for the implementation of services set forth in the plan for services, to direct the city auditor to appropriate and expend up to $1 million from assessments levied from property owners, and to declare an emergency. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, in Small and Minority Business, we have Ordinance 0646-2022 to authorize the city clerk to enter into a grant agreement with the Columbus Chamber of Commerce to support the creation of the Engaging New and Emerging Citizens and Community Guidebook, to authorize an appropriation and expenditure within the Job Growth Subfund, and to declare an emergency. To my colleagues, in 2021, the Columbus Chamber Foundation was awarded a $20,000 grant to help solve the disconnect between agencies and job seekers from the immigrant and refugee community in Columbus. The initial investment was used to offer 3 distinct educational events for Columbus Chamber members and the greater Columbus community. Partners learned about the stories and experiences of the immigrant, migrant, and refugee communities, and the work that needs to be done to create a more inclusive workplace. Following the success of the educational series, the Chamber has opted to create a guidebook that will share better practices being utilized by Chamber members who have created new policies and procedures to be employers of choice for our immigrant, migrant, and refugee community. I would like to thank Councilmember Barroso de Padilla and Councilmember Remy for joining me in support of this initiative, and would like to give them the opportunity to speak and share a few words. Councilmember Barroso de Padilla.
Thank you, Councilmember. So I know that we have members of the chamber who are here who worked on this effort. So I just wanted to acknowledge create their efforts in creating programming specifically for the immigrant, refugee, and migrant community, but also employers who want to seek their talent. People who have chosen this community as their home on a promise of prosperity should be guaranteed that opportunity. The uniqueness of our culture, work ethic, and ambition adds to the richness and success of any work environment and to the employers that employ them. I want to thank the Chamber for the intentionality behind this effort, and I look forward to how this will positively impact not only how we work, but who we employ. So thank you again.
And Kelly, could you come forward as Councilmember Remy gives remarks? Councilmember Remy.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Bankston, and of course, Barossa de Padilla for joining on this effort. This, one of the biggest things that we see with people that are non-American born and new to our community is the communication gap. And so anytime that we can work to help bridge that gap and make sure that people within the community, because we want people from all walks of life to be working throughout our community. We're fighting that same thing, fighting that battle right down here at City Hall and with our city government. And so, whenever we have the opportunity to support and uplift this type of communication, it's incredibly important. So I thank you and thank the Chamber for all the work.
And thank you for your support on this. We greatly appreciate it. We know that we can continue to take some of the good work from early adopters and share with other businesses in the community so that they too can become more inclusive employers and employers of choice, as Councilman said.
Thank you, Kelly. Kelly Fuller is with us. She's the VP of Talent and Workforce Development at the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. And Kelly, could you just speak to us just really briefly on the goals and objectives of this guidebook?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we did have some early adopters in this space last year as a result of that educational series that we offered at the Chamber. So what we've identified is there are certain things that businesses could do regardless of the size of the business or the industry that they're in, based on some of these better practices, like being flexible with your schedule. We had a large distribution center that was really struggling because working parents couldn't get their children off to school, so they changed the schedule to better accommodate. They're doing things like changing the marketing to reach out to some of the community centers so that the marketing for the job openings reflects more from the refugee and immigrant population. So they're developing these relationships with the different community centers around the city. So those are some of the goals. If we could get more businesses in that space, and especially more small to mid-sized businesses, because they have a bit more of the flexibility and they also represent the largest, about 90% of our chamber membership.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly, for your testimony and for all the work that you're doing around this. If there are no further questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage by voice.
Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Mr. Bankston?
Yes.
Ms. Barossa de Padilla?
Yes.
Ms. Brown? Mr. Dorrance? Yes. Ms. Favor? Yes. Mr. Remy? President Hart?
Yes, ordinance is passed.
Thank you. Next, in the Small and Minority Business Committee, we have Ordinance 0691-2022 to authorize the Director of Development to execute a grant agreement with Columbus Fashion Initiative in an amount up to $375,000 towards efforts to grow and unify the Columbus fashion ecosystem, to authorize an appropriation and expenditure within the Jobs Growth Subfund to allow for reimbursement of expenses beginning January 1, 2022, and to declare an emergency. Council members, the Columbus Fashion Alliance, which was founded towards the end of 2019, seeks to strengthen the city's fashion and retail ecosystem by developing and implementing an innovative array of services and programs that align with its strategic pillars: learn, make, innovate, and experience. This investment allows the organization to hire a full-time professional team to join the co-founder and the production manager to execute these programs and initiatives and to help build capacity. Really excited about this organization and our continued support of them. I want to give an opportunity for Council President Hardin to speak to this for sponsoring this piece of legislation. Council President?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like you said, we're really excited about this partnership in this organization. This falls in one of my priority areas around economic development. We know as a community that Columbus ranks number 3 behind New York and Los Angeles for fashion and design. But as the market, as the industry changes, we have to make sure that we are leveraging what we have, which are our people, those fashion designers here in Columbus, and giving them the tools and the resources to go off and start their own businesses, creating their own ecosystems of fashion and art, so we don't lose that number 3 rank. In fact, we want to jump, can you imagine, jump a city or two to be the number 1 fashion destination. And we get there by investing in people. We also get there by investing in infrastructure. What the CFA is doing is bringing together these like-minded folks, giving them the resources. I think they have already bought and have going right now fabric printing machines, sewing machines in a location. And our dream, our hope is that when we put these people together in a defined area, that we create a district where we know when we have folks that graduate, say, from CCAD, or if we have someone leaving one of our more established fashion places of employment, that they know that they can go over to this side of town and have all these resources, have all these folks supporting them, and be around like-minded, fashion-oriented people. So this is $375,000 this year. Also appreciative to have a partnership with the county on this. I think that they will be taking up the sister piece of legislation, I think, this week, so that we can fully get behind this effort and continue to grow. So I appreciate your leadership, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely. Thank you, Council President. And as you all know, our Council President is one of the most fashionable in the city with his socks. So I'm sure that he is looking for some socks out of this at some point. If there are no more comments or questions from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
All right, and finally, in Small and Minority Business Committee tonight, we have Ordinance 0699-2022 to authorize the Director of Development to enter into a nonprofit service contract with the Columbus Chamber of Commerce in support of the Urban Business Connection Program to allow for reimbursement of expenses beginning March 1st, 2022, to authorize an appropriation and expenditure within the Jobs Growth Subfund, and to declare an emergency. In 2021 fiscal year, the Columbus Chamber of Commerce teamed up with the Columbus Urban League, and they joined forces to establish free chamber memberships to 30 Black-owned businesses. Upon joining this program, these businesses gained access to a suite of services, including but not limited to business connections, specialized consultations, and research capabilities for targeted expansion, as well as expanded services in marketing and visibility in the Columbus community. The $175,000 appropriation for this program via this ordinance will more than double the number of Black-owned businesses served, keeping true with my goal of responding to the diverse and ever-changing needs of our small and minority business community. This initiative was also one of my operating budget priorities, so I'm happy to see it on the agenda tonight. And we have one of those small business owners with us to speak to her experience, if she could come forward. Ms. Tiffany Marr, who is the founder and CEO of Wimbler, who was a part of the original 30 businesses that took part in this program. Ms. Marr, welcome to Council, and happy to have you here. Just tell us a little bit about your experience and your company.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Council members, I am extremely honored to give you a glimpse into my experience as a Columbus Chamber of Commerce member for the last year. My name is Tiffany Marr, and I am the founder and CEO of Wimbler. Wimbler is a financial technology app for the workforce. We recognize that nearly 3/4 of the nation earns $50,000 or less and simply cannot afford traditional financial advisement services. We also recognize that over 1 in 3 employees claim that their financial stress is a distraction at work. That was before the pandemic. This alone causes an employer to lose $5,000 to $7,000 in productivity on an annual basis per employee. Wimbler's app offers peer strategy networks, access to DIY tools, and matchmaking with a financial professional in order to help relieve employee stress and bring back increased productivity to the workplace. We are currently in the process of raising much-needed capital in order to grow the current workforce solution with the incorporation of advanced features like robo-advising and impact investing. We are also raising the critical capital in order to hire a smart team and make a significant investment in our latest, greatest project, which I will tell you about in a moment. Quite frankly, all businesses experience challenges, but my most significant challenge as a Black female fintech owner has been access to capital. Even with a great credit score and stellar reputation for paying my bills on time, several traditional and non-traditional banks have either denied or underfunded my application for a business loan, even within a bank's very intentional diversity initiatives. I have noticed a couple of nuances in my experiences. The very public diversity, equity, inclusion, and access platforms touted by leadership at traditional banks may not trickle down to the underwriting process, often taking place in private. I have also observed the enormous gap between the capital needs of young tech companies and the capital need assumptions made by banks and non-tech professionals. I often present the comparison of real estate. Banks fund millions to the construction of a building that has the potential to benefit thousands of people in some capacity over time because it is a physical, tangible property. However, banks only feel comfortable funding thousands into the construction of a technology platform that has the potential to reach millions over space and time because it is an intellectual, intangible property. This is why venture capital exists. These are funds where individuals or organizations are willing to take on more risk for the possibility of greater reward through investment and innovation. The issue with the VC method for women in tech is that only 3% of venture capital is funded to companies owned by women. Said differently, 97% of the $300 billion in venture capital is funded to companies owned by men. Of the 3% funded to women, companies owned by women of color are funded only 0.3% of venture capital. Based on personal research, which I actually hope is proven wrong, Rembler is the first and possibly only Black female-owned fintech company in the city of Columbus and quite possibly the state of Ohio. It continues to be a mind-blowing notion that the Columbus Urban League would select Rembler to be a benefactor of their program, funding 1 year of membership to the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. And what a phenomenal year it has been and continues to be. Membership has afforded me numerous connections and newfound relationships that continue to blossom each and every day. I should note, I am intentional about giving my membership an active heartbeat. I try to attend chamber programming that is relative to Rembler's work and love to engage in coffee and virtual chats regularly with other members to get to know them and determine ways we can work together. Additionally, I meet with my dedicated program manager on a monthly basis at minimum. She knows my story now like the back of her hand. Because of our relationship, she has taken her magic wand and filtered my story and my company throughout the ranks of the chamber. As a result, I have become an Elevate graduate. My plaque is sitting right next to my Tennessee MBA. I am now a member of the Chamber's Small Business Council. I've completed a chamber podcast and recently participated in an emerging talent panel. And all of these amazing opportunities do not compare to the work my program manager did to determine alignment between Rembler's work and that of Southwestern City School District. This is the latest, greatest project I mentioned before. Since Rembler's inception, a personal goal of mine has been to enter the education sector with a financial literacy app for students. The cost of technology is such that the education pillar had to take a back seat for years, until recently. Rembler is collaborating with Southwestern City School District in the mobile applications class in their career technical building to build out the MVP, or the minimum viable product, of Rembler Ed. It will be a gaming solution incorporating the state of Ohio's financial literacy standards in a way that is fun and interactive for students. Our goal is to establish the app for high school and gradually add subsets of features that will be age appropriate and compatible at each stage of a student's education, K through 12 and collegiate. This could not be a better time for the Rembler Ed solution, considering the financial literacy course requirement signed into law at the end of last year by Governor DeWine. It is quite possible that when people see me, they do not see a fintech entrepreneur. It is likely there is a natural disposition that says, okay, female and Black and financial and technology. Okay, no. That's a bit too much, possibly an enigma. But this is the combination that enables Wimbler to connect to the marginalized, represent the underrepresented, and encourage the underbanked. After all, women make up over 50% of the workforce, manage 80% of the household budget, and own 50% of American wealth, while minority buying power is up from $358 billion in 1990 to $3 trillion in 2020. Black, female, financial, tech, the Columbus Chamber of Commerce has proven their support over and over again with every conversation and every interaction that Wimbler has the perfect combination to make a difference. Council members, thank you for your continued support of minority-owned businesses in the city of Columbus, Franklin County, and the state of Ohio. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martyr. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? And before I move for passage, I just want to say, when we talk about advancing small and minority business, when we talk about advancing diversity and equity, it's about intentionality and being intentional. And programs like this is a way to say that we are intentionally going to make sure that Black-owned businesses specifically have a platform in our elevator. So thank you for taking that opportunity. I see Don DePiro here in the chamber. Thank you all for your leadership. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention President Stephanie Hightower, who was a catalyst in this effort in the Columbus Urban League, coming out of the pandemic, raised their hand and said, let's make this happen. So excited to continue to work with them in both of these organizations, and excited to see companies like yours continue to flourish in our city. Thank you so much.
I did want to say just one thing. I just wanted to say thank you. That was an amazing presentation. I think it is no coincidence that you came here on Women's History Month, because I think that you are going to make history. I mean, after that pitch, I don't know who doesn't want to be, what do I have? Can I? I'm just kidding. But I just want to say thank you for what you're doing, especially I think moving into the education space, because I think that that is critical and important. And I think especially as we think about our Black and brown children, this is not something that we teach them. And it is not something that we don't teach them about financial wealth. We teach them about, finances 101, right? And so I think that once we change the mindset, it starts to broaden the horizons of young people and entrepreneurs, and people need to see us to be us. And so I want to thank you for being one of the people who are seen, and for elevating and uplifting other people, and breaking down barriers and making things accessible to people in our community. So thank you. Thank you. So much.
I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass. Thank you, Council President. That's all we have in Small and Minority Business Committee. Can I move on to the Technology Committee?
Please.
Tonight in Technology, for second reading, we have Ordinance 0479-2022 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management on behalf of the Department of Technology for the City Attorney's Office to establish a purchase order for the continued conversion of legal documents via backfile, scanning, and electronic signature process capabilities with 3SG Plus LLC using a state term contract, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code, to authorize the expenditure of $75,000 from the Information Services Bond Fund, and to declare an emergency. Given the extensive and urgent need for the continued conversion of legal documents via the backfile scanning and electronic signature capabilities, it is in the city's best interest to authorize a waiver of competitive bidding in this case. Is there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
And finally, for me, and finally in technology, we have Ordinance 0766-2022 to authorize the Director of the Department of Technology to enter into a contract with Software House International for the procurement of various Adobe software application products for the Department of Technology and various other city agencies, to waive relevant provisions of Columbus City codes pertaining to competitive bidding, to authorize the expenditure of up to $162,476.21 from the Information Services Operating Fund for the above described purpose and to declare an emergency. I am sure all of you are well versed on the benefits that Adobe products give to all of the city agencies, including our own offices. Following the 2 responses received from the solicitation of bids for the various Adobe software products previously mentioned, the Department of Technology recommends that the bid be awarded to Software House International in the amount of $162,476.21. Of this total, $124,161.51 will be used to purchase 688 licenses for various products, while the remaining balance of $38,314.70 will be contingency funds in the event additional licenses are needed. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor of Remy. President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, President Harden. That's all I have for my committees this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next committee to come before Council is Public Service Committee, chaired by Councilmember Barosa de Padilla. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Good evening. I have one item today on the agenda, 0485-2022, to amend the 2021 capital improvement budget to authorize the transfer of funds within the Water GO Bonds Fund to authorize and direct the city auditor to appropriate and transfer funds from the city income tax fund to the Streets and Highways Bond Fund, to appropriate funds from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund, the Transportation Grants Fund, and the General Government Grants Fund to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Complete General Construction Company for their arterial street rehabilitation, Hudson Street, I-71 to Cleveland Avenue project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $19,395,049.60 from the Transportation Grants Fund, General Government Grants Fund, Water GO Bond Fund, and Streets and Highways Fund Bond Fund to the project, to repay any unused funds at the end of the grant period and to declare an emergency. So I wanted to share a little bit because we've been sharing a lot about this project. So we have a slide, which is just a rendering, but there's going to be lots of activity around this corridor, and I wanted folks to get an idea of what this will look like. So Hudson Street is an important east-west arterial in the Linden neighborhood. Its reconstruction was identified in the One Linden Community Plan as a catalyst project to connect the community. When completed, the new sidewalk and shared use path on Hudson will create connections to a planned pedestrian safety project on Hiawatha Park Drive from Hudson to the proposed community sports park at the intersection of Velma and Silver Drive. So Hudson will be completely reconstructed and repaved for a smoother, safer drive, and will create a shared use path on the south side of Hudson, which you see in the picture, that will make it safer for people to walk and ride their bicycles. Other infrastructure improvements include installing a new water line to replace the existing 100-year-old line, upgrading traffic signals, and adding new storm sewers, green infrastructure to absorb and redirect drain water, ADA curb ramps, and streetlights. So construction is anticipated to start this spring, and we're going to finish in 2024. So all of the traffic from here will be maintained one-way eastbound on Hudson during construction, and westbound traffic will be rerouted to Weber, and then CODA bus service will follow these routes. So this is what it'll look like, but I wanted to share with folks, because we've been talking a lot about Cleveland and Hudson, this is what the proposed project will look like after this. So I know it's going to be a headache for a little while for some folks, but in the end, I think that this project will provide us lots of opportunities for folks in that area. So I'll open it up to any questions or comments from my colleagues.
Chair, I would just like to acknowledge, to your point, this is a big deal for the city, but a big deal for the Linden community, for all of us, folks who use the bike paths, folks who have businesses along Hudson, folks who will use the sports park that is for the community. This has so many connections. Folks who care about transit and connectivity and all those things. This is a project that really is one of the first of big components of our larger transit and connectivity project. So you're right, it will be a headache for folks. We ask you to work with us, to engage with us as you need support, specifically the small businesses on that corridor. But the larger a year and a half from now, when this is done, it will be a huge benefit for all of Columbus and specifically that community. So,
Absolutely. And as folks continue to see traffic disruptions like this, I mean, again, it's painful in the middle, it's better in the end. And I think where we're going and making the city more accessible and safer for pedestrians, for bike riders, to include more mobility options for folks is imperative for the city, and especially as we continue to grow as a city. So it's all about access. So I'm excited about what this will look like, and we'll continue to share more renderings and as the project continues to give updates to the public. So any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Perfect, that's all for me. Thanks.
And I'm here for more PowerPoints at council. I like the slideshow. That was good. Thank you, Councilmember. The next committee to come before council is the Recreation and Parks, chaired by Pres Pro Tem. Pres Pro Tem, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. I have no PowerPoint. But I do have some great legislation in Recreation and Parks, 0722-2022, to authorize the appropriation of $4,100,476 from the unappropriated balance in the Recreation and Parks Operating Fund for the purchase of equipment and to support staff expansions for the Rec and Parks Department, to authorize and direct the city auditor to set up a certificate in the amount of $3,781,500 for the purchase of equipment for the Recreation and Parks Department, to authorize and direct the Director of Recreation and Parks and the Director of Finance and Management on behalf of the Recreation and Parks Department to enter into various contracts for the purchase of equipment, to authorize the expenditure of $4,100,476 from the Recreation and Parks Operating Fund, and to declare an emergency. Keeping our trees, parks, and recreation facilities accessible, attractive, and well-maintained is one of our truly most important services as a city, and one that we hear about a lot from residents. This funding before us today is necessary and timely in making sure we fulfill that obligation to our community. The funding specifically provides for the continued maintenance and improvement of amenities and new equipment where it is needed. A total of $318,976 will be used to support staff expansions within the department for positions that directly affect our ability to develop and deliver services and capital improvement projects throughout the system. Due to the current supply chain concerns impacting equipment globally, this emergency action will ensure the equipment will be delivered and available as soon as possible in 2022 and beyond. Any questions from colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you, President Harden. That's all I have.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next committee to come before council is the Public Utilities Committee, chaired by Councilmember Dorans. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. First, in the Public Utilities Committee, we have ordinance number 0514-2022 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Elite Excavating Co. of Ohio, Inc. for the Edsel Avenue Area Waterline Improvement Project, amount of up to $5,359,681.80 to encumber $2,000 for prevailing wage services provided by the Department of Public Service, to authorize the appropriation of transfer of $5,359,681.80 from the Water Sewer Reserve Fund to the Water Supply Revolving Loan Account Fund, to authorize the appropriation of expenditure of $5,359,681.80 within the Water Supply Revolving Loan Account Fund, to authorize expenditure of up to $2,000 within the Water General Obligation Voted Bond Fund, and to amend Ordinance 1543-2021 in order to increase the maximum dollar amount of this project's water supply revolving loan account funding loan award not to exceed an amount of $5,359,681.80 for the Division of Water, and to authorize an amendment to the 2021 capital improvement budget. The goal of this project is to replace or rehabilitate approximately 11,600 linear feet of existing water lines that have a high break frequency, resulting in improved water service, decreased burden on water maintenance operations, and reduced water loss near Edsel Avenue in the far south planning area. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. With your permission, I'd like to move the Building and Zoning Policy Committee.
Please.
Thank you. In that committee, we have ordinance number 0648-2022 to authorize the Director of Building and Zoning Services to establish and purchase orders for the purchase of document conversion and e-plan solutions from the 3SG Plus LLC State of Ohio state term schedules, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code, to authorize the expenditure of $377,526.36 from the Development Services Fund, and to declare an emergency. The Department of Building and Zoning Services has an immediate need for the conversion of its existing documents into electronic images and enhance its e-plan system. The imaging services optimize storage space, reduce future storage costs, and provide efficient access to department information. Emergency action has been requested to expedite authorization of this contract in order to facilitate and maintain uninterrupted services for the supplier for critical technology services for the department. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And finally, I would ask your permission to go back to Rules and Reference Committee on page 22 of our agenda tonight.
Please.
Thank you. In Rules and Reference, I have ordinance 0874-2022 to amend section 2329.11 of Chapter 2329 of the Columbus City Code to clarify variance criteria to be used by the Columbus Board of Health and to declare an emergency. Since taking over the role of the Zoning Committee Chair, my team and I have been working closely with the City Attorney's Office to address some of the gaps in our current zoning process. We know there are some larger overall discussions and policy decisions that need to be made, but while we wait for the zoning code rewrite to be finalized, there are small, incremental changes that we can make to facilitate some of the more challenging zoning applications that come before the committee and this body. This ordinance and code change is an example of one of those here tonight. I know my colleagues and I are aware of the big changes that are needed in our city's noise ordinance. This amendment is not that big change, yet this amendment requires the Columbus Board of Health to consider an adjacent property's zoning for purposes of whether or not to grant a variance for a noise violation. The amendment reads as follows. Quote, "In determining whether there are practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships in carrying out the strict letter of any regulation, order, or notice, the board shall take into consideration whether strict compliance will result in practical difficulties, unnecessary hardships, or closing down of existing business, plant, or operation due to a change in allowable decibels at the property boundary occasioned by alteration in the receiving land use category of an adjacent property." Again, we know that a much larger conversation needs to be had regarding our noise ordinance in general, with noise issues that are happening in the community. However, this amendment addresses one small change regarding specific to some changes around applications that come before us for rezonings and for variances. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you, Council President. That is all I have until zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Housing Committee, chaired by Councilmember Favor. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Tonight in Housing, we have Ordinance 464-2022 to amend the 2021 capital improvement budget to authorize the city auditor to appropriate and transfer funds from the special income tax to the Development Taxable Bond Fund, to authorize the Director of Department of Development to enter into contracts with the Central Ohio Community Improvement Corporation, or COSIC, and or various companies and nonprofit entities to provide services related to the demolition of structures, including environmental, asbestos testing and abatement, demolition, post-demolition, lot restoration, legal fees related to tax foreclosures, acquisition of blighted properties, and similar services, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of City Code Chapter 329 for emergency demolitions, to authorize the expenditure of $800,000 from the Development Taxable Bonds Fund, and to declare an emergency. The Central Ohio Community Improvement Corporation is the designated grantee for Franklin County's Building Demolition and Site Revitalization Program, established to revitalize blighted residential and commercial structures. This legislation authorizes the Director of the Department of Development to enter into contracts for various expenditures related to the demolition of blighted structures. Work includes demolition, environmental testing, and environmental abatement, just to name a few. We do have a speaker with us who would like to speak on this ordinance. Mr. Nate Wilkins, welcome back to council.
Arlington Avenue, Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins. I'm all in support of this, and I would say several reasons why. I know there's multiple times I come down here. Once we talk about vacant structures, dilapidated property around City of Ohio area, but it seems like none of these properties are in certainly bad shape. Mind you, 1494 Cleveland Avenue, holding the city land bank for community investments. We all talk about opportunity, and we all talk about development for young folks, professionals, but here today is an empty lot. Also, Fifth Avenue, we talk about a historical house, siding falling off, boarded up. This is what I consider as immediate tear down. Today, it still sits a vacant lot in Milo Grogan. 1680 Genesee Avenue, 1 bedroom, a beautiful home. I didn't see nothing wrong with that property when I first moved into my house in 2007. Sits a vacant lot, it's a parking lot. I want to talk to you, 1647 Myrtle Avenue. It was a house was lived in one time or another. The garage was burnt. It still sits idolized, empty, broken windows. I call this a nuisance. And we talk about blighted property in the area. I sit and walk down that block, and here you're asking for $8,000. I'm going to support this, but a different amount of money. I want $975,082. That will give the property owner and your time to take care of the mess before the city steps in. To give the owner 90 or 120 days away before we start moving on demolition. In closing, I looked at a beautiful house on Genesee Avenue, 1415 Genesee Avenue. A beautiful home, a wrapped around front porch. Look down there, the city has a no trespassing sign through the Community Investment Corporation. Next day it was torn down. Didn't see nothing wrong with it. But here we are, we're talking about opportunities. People to live in affordable housing. I didn't see nothing wrong with that house. And here again, we're asking for this. I would like to see the documents, what was torn down on Cleveland Avenue, how much that was. And here I live in my community, and there's nothing being done, but we got torn up property that's still idolized in this area. Won't we do something? I want $897,000 for this, to give the owners opportunity to get up and do something with their properties before the city steps in. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins, for your continued advocacy for Columbus overall, but specifically the Linden community. As we have talked about a few times, most of these properties are already, if not all of them, are owned by the city and or county. And before a demolition occurs, a ruling has been made by the court, by a judge, that the property has been deemed to be a public nuisance or beyond repair. So there have been opportunities for most of these owners who are wanting to fix the property up to have opportunities to be able to do so before the city or the county steps in. But happy to have the Department of Development follow up on those specific ones that you discussed today. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed. We can take a break. Right?
Okay.
May I have a motion to recess? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Zoning will convene in 5 minutes. Okay.
Bangston, Remy, President Harden.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
We'll now go to the zoning committee. Councilmember Dorn chairs that committee. All members serve on it. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Harden. Before tonight's zoning agenda, I have a bit of some housekeeping to make things flow a little bit smoother here tonight. Will the clerk please read the names or the numbers of legislation and zoning committee this evening that require a waiver of second reading?
Ordinance 543, 544, 545, 567, 569, 570, 687, 688, 713, 714, 744, 746, 754, 755, and 756-2022.
Thank you, Clerk. I'm going to go ahead and move to waive second reading on those items listed now.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Items are waived.
Thank you. Now with that housekeeping out of the way, for tonight's zoning committee, allow me to briefly explain our current rules pertaining to speaking before council on zoning and variances. We will only hear a staff presentation for ordinances that have a disapproval from a recommending body, or if we have public speakers signed up to speak against an ordinance. I'm happy to report that all the ordinances tonight have received approvals from all recommending bodies, including city staff, development commission, and area commissions. We have 2 speakers signed up tonight, one which is against an ordinance, so we will require a staff presentation on that piece of legislation. Speakers on council variance, including city staff, area commissioners, applicants, and members of the public, will be sworn in before they give testimony. Representatives of an area commission and applicants are always able to speak on an ordinance and do not need to fill out a speaker slip. On the advice of the city attorney, I will now swear in city staff. Please stand and raise your right hand and be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer the pains or penalties of perjury? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you. Let the record show that Shannon Pine from the Department of Building and Zoning Services and Daniel Moorhead from the Department of Public Service has been sworn in. First, tonight, we have Council Variance 0543-2022 to grant a variance from provisions of Section 3332.035 R3 Residential District, 3332.05A4 area district lot requirements, and 3332.13 R3 area district requirements of the Columbus City Codes, the property located at 1101-1103 East 22nd Ave to permit a 2-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R3 residential district. The applicant is Healthy Linden Homes, care of Patrice Allen Brady. The proposed use is a 2-unit dwelling. City's department's recommendation is approval. South Linden Area Commission's recommendation is approval, and it was unanimous. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
Thank you. Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, we have Council Variance 0544-2022 to grant a variance from the provisions of Section 3332.035 R3 Residential District, 3332.05A4 Area Lot with requirements, 3332.13 R3 Area District requirements of the Columbus City Code, so property located at 1229-1231 East 22nd Avenue to permit a 2-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R3 Residential District. The applicant, again, is Healthy Linden Homes, care of Patrice Allen Brady. The proposed use is a 2-unit dwelling. City's department recommendation is approval. South Linden Area Commission recommendation is also approval and unanimous. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, we have Council Variance 0545-2022 to grant a variance provisions of Section 3332.035 R3 Residential District, 3332.05A Area Lot Width Requirements, and 3332.13 R3 Area District Requirements of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 1082-1084 East 18th Avenue to permit a 2-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R3 Residential District. The applicant is Healthy Homes Linden, care of Patrice Allen Brady. The proposed use is a 2-unit dwelling. The city's department recommendation is approval. And again, the South Linden Area Commission recommendation is also approval. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
Thank you. I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it. And finally, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed. Next, we have Council Variance 0567-2022 to grant a variance and provisions of Section 3332.035 R3 Residential District, 3312.49C maximum number of parking spots required, and 3332.13 R3 Area District requirements of the Columbus City Code for the property located at 1267-1269 East 21st Avenue to permit a 2-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R3 Residential District. The applicant again is Healthy Linden Homes, care of Patrice Allen Brady. The proposed use is a 2-unit dwelling. The city department's recommendation is approval. South Linden Area Commission's recommendation is also approval. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
Thank you. Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Council Variance 0569-2022 to grant a variance and provisions of Section 3332.035 R3 Residential District, 3332.05A4 Area District Lot Width Requirements, and 3332.13 R3 Area District Requirements of the Columbus City Codes, the property located at 1105-1107 East 21st Avenue to permit a 2-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R3 Residential District. And the applicant is Healthy Linden Homes, care of Patrice Allen Brady. Proposed use is a 2-unit dwelling. City Department recommendation is approval. The South Linden Area Commission recommendation is also approval. We did have one speaker sign up to speak in favor of this ordinance, Mr. Richard Crockett. Is Mr. Richard Crockett in council chambers tonight? Let the record reflect, I do not believe that Mr. Crockett is present at this time. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And next, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Council Variance 0570-2022 to grant a variance provisions of Section 3332.035 R3 Residential District, 33312.27 Parking Setback Line, 33321.05B1 Vision Clearance, 33332.005 A4 Area District Lot Width Requirements, 3332.13 R3 Area District Requirements, and 3332.22 A1 Building Lines on Corner Lots, exceptions of the Columbus City Code for property located at 1103-1105 East 20th Avenue to permit a 2-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R3 Residential District. The applicant is Healthy Linden Homes, care of Patrice Allen Brady. The proposed use is a 2-unit dwelling. City Department's recommendation is approval. South Linden Area Commission recommendation is also approval. Do my colleagues have questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
Finally, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, we have Council Variance 0687-2022 to grant a variance provisions of Section 3332.035 R3 Residential District, 3332.05A4 area lot with requirements, and 3332.13 R3 area district requirements of the Columbus City Code. So the property located 1103-1105 East 18th Avenue to permit a 2-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R3 Residential District. The applicant is Healthy Linden Homes Care of Patrice Allen Brady. The proposed use is a 2-unit dwelling. City's Department recommendation is approval, and South Linden Area Commission recommendation is approval. Do any of my colleagues have questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
And finally, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Council Variance 0688-2022 to grant a variance in provisions of Section 3332.035 R3 Residential District, 3332.05A4 area district lot with requirements, and 3332.13 R3 area district requirements of the Columbus City Codes. The property located at 1013 1015 East 16th Avenue to permit a 2-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R3 Residential District. The applicant is Healthy Linden Homes Care of Patrice Allen Brady. Proposed use is a 2-unit dwelling. City's Department's recommendation is approval. South Linden Area Commission's recommendation is also approval. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Councilmember Favor?
Thank you, Councilmember Dorans. I wanted to at least take a moment to acknowledge the 8 pieces of legislation that have gone through council in the zoning hearing tonight, and Mr. Nate Wilkins, who is a consistent community advocate for the Linden community. All of these homes, which I believe most of them are will be 2-unit dwellings, fall under the Healthy Linden arm, and that includes affordability component. So, I think that we have to continue to uplift our residents that take time out of their day to come to council to advocate on behalf of issues that are important to them, that being development and the revitalization of Linden for Mr. Wilkins. And he spoke earlier today, so just wanted to give a quick acknowledgement of that, and to also just uplift some new housing that's coming to the Linden community.
Councilmember Bankston.
Thank you, Councilmember Dorans and Councilmember Favor. I just wanted to echo what Councilmember Favor said, but also just to point out, again, this is another effort in us as a city advancing the One Linden Community Plan. We talk about these plans often. We talk about them sitting on the shelves, but actively, there are partners coming to the table to advance the work in Linden, and particularly this one advancing one of the pillars, which is to expand housing, affordable housing at that. And so excited about this being affordable, adding density to our city, and so also wanted to make sure I recognize and commend Nationwide Children's Healthy Homes Initiative for really stepping up and being a pioneer in the Linden community and being a partner with us in this endeavor. So thank you for your leadership, Councilmember Dorans.
Thank you, Councilmember Bankston. In favor. It's helpful to pause as we move through some of these things from time to time and talk about the context in which they are getting before us in the zoning committee. And I appreciate both of you putting that into some context, because you read all those numbers and sometimes it doesn't make a lot of sense. But at the end of the day, to Councilmember Bankston's point, we're adding affordable density in an area of the city that we know needs it. And I think that's important for us to pause and recognize, even with everything else that we do within this committee. So thank you both. With that, I'd like to move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accepted.
Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please. No, perfect. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Yeah.
And finally, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have rezoning 0713-2022 to rezone 222 West Lane Avenue for being 2.69 plus acres located on the north side of West Lane Avenue, 85 plus feet west of West Neal Avenue from R3 apartment residential to AR4 apartment residential and CPD commercial planning districts to CPD commercial planning districts. The applicant is LV Development LLC, care of Dave Perry, agent. The proposed use is a mixed-use development. City's department recommendation is approval. The Development Commission's recommendation is approval. University Area Commission's recommendation is approval, 11-1. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I first move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Amended.
And next, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you. Next, we have Council Variance 0714-2022 to grant a variance from the provisions of Section 3356.03 C4 permitted uses and 3356.05F CF District Development Limitation of the Columbus City Codes, the property located at 222 West Lane Avenue to permit a mixed-use development with reduced development standards in the CPD Commercial Planned Development District. The applicant is LV Development LLC, care of Dave Perry, agent. The proposed use is a mixed-use development. City's department recommendation is approval. University Area Commission's recommendation is approval, 11-1. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Council Variance 0744-2022 to grant a variance from the provisions of Section 3332.035 R3 Residential District, 3332.05 A4 Area District Lot Width Requirements, and 3332.13 R3 Area District Requirements of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 1283-1285 East 24th Avenue to permit a two-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R3 Residential District. The applicant is Healthy Linden Homes, care of Patrice Allen Brady. The proposed use is a two-unit dwelling. City Department recommendation is approval. South Linden Area Commission's recommendation is also approval. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And next, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Council Variance 0746-2022 to grant a variance of provisions of Section 3332.035 R3 Residential District, 3332.05 A4 Area District Lot Width Requirements, and 3332.13 R3 Area District Requirements of the Columbus City Codes, the property located at 1237-1239 East 20th Avenue to permit a two-unit dwelling with reduced development standards in the R3 Residential District. The applicant is Healthy Linden Homes, care of Patrice Allen Brady. Proposed use is a two-unit dwelling. City Department recommendation is approval. South Linden Area Commission recommendation is also approval. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accept it.
Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Next, we have Council Variance 0754-2022 to grant a variance provisions of Section 3356.03 C4 permitted uses the property located at 17677 Linden Place to a conforming existing single-unit dwelling to the C4 Commercial District. The applicant is Richard Brown Jr., care of Brian Ferris, agent. Proposed use is a single-unit dwelling. The City Department recommendation is approval. The North Linden Area Commission recommendation is also approval unanimously. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accepted.
Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
And finally, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, we have Council Variance 0755-2022 to grant a variance from the provisions of Section 333.02, AR12, ARLD, and AR1 Apartment Residential District Use, 3312.49C, minimum number of parking spaces required, 333.16, fronting, 333.18B, building lines, 3333.22, maximum side yard required, 3333.23, minimum side yard permitted, 3333.24, rear yard, and 3333.25, side or rear yard obstruction of the Columbus City Code to property located at 1945-1947 West Broad Street to permit a mixed-use development with reduced development standards in the AR Apartment District, Residential District. The applicant is Revest Realty, LLC, with Felicia Lyons, care of Felicia Lyons. The proposed use is a mixed-use development. City's Department recommendation is approval. The greater area, the Greater Hilltop Area Commission recommendation is approval, 13-0. We do have one speaker signed up this evening to speak against this application. So at this time, I would ask for a staff presentation.
Good evening. The site consists of one parcel developed with a commercial building, a 2-unit dwelling, and a single-unit dwelling, all unoccupied in the AR1 Apartment Residential District. The council variance will permit the commercial building to be converted to a 600-square-foot eating and drinking establishment with 720 square feet of outdoor dining space and retains the 2 dwelling units. Variances for reduced parking from 19 to 8 spaces, and to conform the existing conditions, such as no frontage for the single-unit dwelling, reduced building line, reduced side yard and rear yards, are all included in the request. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Hilltop Land Use Plan, which recommends mixed-use 3 uses, which are classified as commercial with high-density residential uses at this location, and includes adoption of the Columbus Citywide Planning Policies Design Guidelines. The proposal is consistent with the land use recommendation of the Hilltop Land Use Plan, and staff notes the inclusion of bicycle parking beyond what is required by code to help offset the requested parking reduction as recommended by the C2P2 design guidelines. Staff also notes the preservation of existing mature trees and retaining of an existing contributing building, which further align with C2P2 design guidelines. Therefore, the City Department's recommendation is for approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pine. Do my colleagues have any questions for Ms. Pine? Seeing none, I would like to call the speaker that we had signed up to speak against this council variance, Ms. Jenny Robeson. Ms. Robeson? Thank you, Ms. Robeson. I'm going to swear you in here real quick before your comments, okay? Please beat me to it, so thank you. Thanks.
I've been sworn in before.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under the pains or penalties of perjury? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Ms. Robeson, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. I am the owner of several residential properties that are within 100 feet of 1947 West Broad Street, and I oppose the 8 zoning variances proposed tonight. These variances will allow the property to be extremely overused with no regard for the area around it. This property is only zoned for residential, and the AR1 ordinance is only residential apartments, not mixed uses. There is no other mixed-use development in the area, and I do not see a request for a zoning variance this evening. The lot is 10,454 square feet, almost half of the required 20,000 square feet for an AR1 provision. It is already built with 0 setbacks at the front, the back, and west side. There is no on-street parking available for this property at all. There is no room for a trash dumpster. There is no room for a delivery truck or trash truck or construction vehicles to turn and enter the property from the alley. A 3-unit property requires 6 spaces, and then with the 13 that have been requested, a 684 square foot restaurant, that's how much the auditor has it at, is 684. It requires 9 more, so 15 spaces is what I calculated. And what reduced standard of parking should a neighborhood be forced to accept? I am just asking that the zoning rules be applied and that if 8 zoning variances are needed to cram pack a property already close to bursting at the seams, then perhaps this is not the best use of this property. And if the development wants to move forward with this many reduced development standards, then why have standards at all? Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you, Ms. Robson. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Ms. Robson? Councilmember Favor?
Goodness. Thank you for your testimony this evening. Did you have an opportunity to engage with the Greater Hilltop Area Commission?
No, I was never notified of the Greater Hilltop Area Commission having this before it at all.
Okay.
And I own every property that abuts this across from the alley. I own 4 right in a row that are all directly right behind it in the alley.
Okay. And your contention is really just the sheer amount of variances that are before the council, or it's the proposed development itself?
It's the proposed development itself.
Okay.
It's cram packing so much onto a property that's already got so much on it. If they're going to reuse the 3 units as residential, there's absolutely no room for parking. There's no room for parking. I mean, there would be absolutely no yard. And it's at 0 setback, 0 setback, 0 setback. So there's no room to go anywhere there. And there's just a little sliver here. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Robson.
Okay.
Do any of my other colleagues have any questions? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, sorry.
No, I would just say, just a comment, Chair Dorns, that, when we see projects like this that have this many variances, right, I think it's a nod to our outdated code that we are looking to overhaul. And when we talk about density and how we are really building a city for tomorrow, right, and that expected growth, this is the type of pain points that we see every day before us in this council. So I just wanted to make sure we painted that picture clear that, there are new guidelines, C2, P2, and other things that are coming. But I think overall, when you think about this corridor, this project would be, in compatibility with where we were going as a city. So the 8 variances feels like a lot, but I think, again, is a nod to our outdated zoning code and where we are as a city.
Thank you, Councilmember Banks, and I think it's also important to note this property is very old, so when we talk about some of the setbacks, I mean, this has existed for many decades and has been vacant for many decades, and I think that is important when we talk about the incompatibility of the current code as applied to a property of this age, and how it could be adapted to use today, because it has sat vacant for so long. Would the applicants or the representative like to speak to the request for the variances? Ms. Lyons? Thank you, Ms. Lyons. I will swear you in before your comments. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer the pains or penalties of perjury? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Ms. Lyons, the floor is yours.
Yes, as has already been stated, the age of the property really prohibits or it actually dictates how many variances is needed as far as the setbacks and things like that. It's been a property that's been in disrepair for, like Representative Dorns has said, for many, many years. We have gone through every avenue that we needed to go through the city with architects, structural engineers. We have taken this property through and made sure that we were covering all of our bases and ensuring that we were being mindful of the area, but also of the history of the building. And so I really would love for the committee to accept the variance as it is. I think that this property, as it is being proposed, will bring value to the area. There's a lot of history with this building as far as the storefront is concerned, the front building on Broad Street. It has, my understanding is, historically been used as a storefront, mixed use, so it would not be something that's varied from what has been done in the past. And like I said, it has been, the property and the plan is in line with the mixed use envision plan for the greater Hilltop area.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments for Ms. Lyons? Just one question. So this variance was supported by the Greater Hilltop Area Commission. I just wanted to know, was there a discussion about parking specifically at the Hilltop Area Commission?
There was nothing specific. There was an acknowledgement that the parking spaces would be reduced from the number that is per code. All of the parking will be contained within the property lines itself, essentially changing the backyard into a parking lot.
And per the staff report, you're complying with C2P2 to provide additional bike parking on the property, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments?
Just a comment.
President Harden?
I just think it's also important to Councilmember Bankston's point, and I think to Councilmember Doran's point specifically when we're talking in regards to the parking, that this property is on a high capacity transit corridor. Like being on Broad Street and on the bus line and thinking in the future about other transit investments, I think these are the types generally of mixed use projects that we would like to see that hopefully will, to your point, bring value not just to this property but to properties around. And so just thinking about the parking variances needed, understanding physically where this is located and the type of transit line it's on is something that I'm taking into consideration with my vote.
Any other council members? Thank you, Ms. Lyons.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate Ms. Robeson being here this evening and articulating her concerns specifically around this project. I do think that the number of variances that have been requested here are specific to the age of the property, specifically where it's located based upon, again, being on Broad Street, the age certainly of the property itself. I think that there's been key things that have been done, including complying with C2P2, and again, being on transit lines currently. I think this is a project that should move forward, again, based upon, again, a unanimous decision as well from the Greater Hilltop Area Commission supporting this project. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments before we move forward? Seeing none, I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Accepted.
Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
And finally, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And finally, the last piece of legislation, zoning committee, is rezoning 0756-2022 to rezone 3130 East Livingston Avenue, being 0.45 plus acres located on the northeast corner of East Livingston Avenue and Elizabeth Avenue from ARO Apartment Office District and AR2F Residential District to LC4 Limited Commercial District. The applicant is Reda Togi, care of Janine Carbel. The proposed use is a limited commercial development. The city's recommendation is approval. The Development Commission's recommendation is approval. Mideast Area Commission recommendation is approval, unanimous. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And with that concludes this evening's zoning committee agenda. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Seeing no further business, can I get a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned. We'll reconvene meeting number 13. 5 minutes. Is there a second? Yes. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Reconvene. The next committee to come before council is the Health and Human Services Committee, chaired by Councilmember Favor. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Tonight in Health and Human Services Committee, we have Ordinance 103-2022 to authorize the Board of Health to enter into contracts with various community agencies for the provisions of eligible HOPWA services for the period of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022, to authorize the expenditure of $1,360,148.67 from the General Government Grants Fund and to declare an emergency. The HOPWA program funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development provides for implementation of long-term comprehensive strategies for addressing the housing needs of low-income persons with HIV/AIDS and their families. This ordinance allows the Board of Health to contract with various community agencies to provide critical services to these families, including new construction of housing units, rental assistance, mortgage and utility payments, and administrative support. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. I am now going to turn the committee over to second chair, Councilmember Barosa de Padilla.
Thank you, Councilmember. 0502-2022 to authorize the Executive Director, Office of Celebrate One, to enter into contract and sub-award agreements with Saunders Company, LLC, Nationwide Children's Hospital, and Planned Parenthood of Greater Ohio for a culturally informed media advertising campaign and teen peer-to-peer reproductive health education in the amount of $647,414.91 to author the expenditure of $647,414.91 from the General Government Grants Fund to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code and to declare an emergency. In 2018, more Franklin County babies lived to celebrate their first birthday, and the infant mortality rate dropped across populations. Infant mortality is a key indicator of a community's overall well-being. There was a 23% decrease in the infant mortality rate since 2011. This ordinance will continue to support the important work of Celebrate One in its efforts to decrease infant mortality across the city, as well as support the development of a culturally informed media advertising campaign to promote safe sleep practices and to increase enrollment in home visiting services, and to continue the community-based peer-to-peer education program for teens and support the Celebrate One goal to improve reproductive health planning by implementing evidence-based teen pregnancy prevention programming in schools. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? I move to amend 30-day legislation.
Clerk, please call the row.
Mr. Bangston,
Abstain.
Ms. Barosa de Padilla,
Yes.
Ms. Brown, Mr. Dorans,
Yes.
Ms. Favor,
Abstain.
Mr. Remy,
Yes.
President Harden.
Yes. Ordinance is passed.
Move to waive second reading.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row by voice.
Mr. Bangston,
Abstain.
Ms. Barosa de Padilla,
Yes.
Ms. Brown, Mr. Dorans,
Yes.
Ms. Favor,
Abstain.
Mr. Remy, President Harden.
Waived.
Move for passage as amended.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Mr. Bangston,
Abstain.
Ms. Barosa de Padilla,
Yes.
Ms. Brown, Mr. Dorans,
Yes.
Ms. Favor,
Abstain.
Mr. Remy,
Yes.
President Harden.
Pass. Yes. Pass.
Excellent. 0633-2022 to authorize the Board of Health to enter into initial contracts with qualified vendors, modify those contracts if portions of previously appropriated and encumbered funds are unused, and reallocate unused funds by entering into contracts with newly identified and qualified vendors without the need for additional legislation for the Ryan White Part A HIV Care Grant Program for the provision of services allowable under the grant for persons with HIV or AIDS in Central Ohio to authorize the expenditure of $1,716,569.50 from the Health Department Grants Fund to pay the cost thereof, to waive competitive bidding of City Code Chapter 329, and to declare an emergency. The Ryan White Part A HIV Care Grant Program aims to improve access to quality medical care for persons with HIV or AIDS living in Central Ohio. This ordinance will support residents living with HIV services to improve their quality of life. In 2020, the program served over 2,000 people living with HIV through programs including outpatient, ambulatory, medical care, mental health and housing services, emergency financial assistance, and medical transportation. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? So I move to amend to 30-day legislation.
Clerk, please call the row.
Mr. Bankston?
Abstain.
Ms. Barosa de Padilla?
Yes.
Ms. Brown? Yes. Mr. Dorrance? Yes. Ms. Favor?
Abstain.
Mr. Remy? Yes. President Harden?
Yes, amended.
Move to waive second reading.
Clerk, please call the row.
Mr. Bankston?
Abstain.
Ms. Barosa de Padilla?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Dorrance?
Yes.
Ms. Favor?
Abstain.
Mr. Remy?
Yes.
President Harden?
Yes, waived.
And I move for passage as amended.
Clerk, please call the row.
Mr. Bankston?
Abstain.
Ms. Barosa de Padilla?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Dorrance?
Yes.
Ms. Favor?
Abstain.
Mr. Remy?
Yes.
President Harden?
Yes, passed.
That's all for Health and Human Services. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairs. The next committee coming before council is Public Safety Committee, chaired by Councilman Remy. Councilman, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. Tonight I have, the first two ordinances in the Public Safety Committee are related to the 2022 Neighborhood Violence Intervention Program and share similar background details. So my first ordinance is 250-2022 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Safety to enter into contract with Columbus Urban League for services related to the implementation of the 2022 Neighborhood Violence Intervention Program, to authorize the transfer and appropriation of $659,000 from the Recreation and Parks Operating Fund to the General Fund, to authorize the expenditure of $329,500 from the general fund, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of Chapter 329 of the Columbus City Code, and to declare an emergency. Columbus Urban League will provide violence interruption and crisis response activities that include responding to specific violent confrontations, working to mediate and diffuse conflict tensions, and actively promoting peace of building among our youth. Contractors shall maintain a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week schedule to respond to calls regarding youth violence confrontations such as shootings, aggravated assaults, homicides, and other violent incidents. Columbus Urban League will also provide support services to victims' families and funds. Support services will be provided after making initial contact with victims' families and friends at the scene of the incident, hospital, or at a time and location chosen by the victims' families and friends. Support services can also include contractor attending funerals, vigils, peace marches, etc. Additionally, community intervention workers shall participate in neighborhood violence interruption activities and initiatives focusing on reducing youth violence citywide and improving community collaborations to support the MVI initiative. The Columbus Urban League will hold a surety bond in the amount of $100,000 and certificate of insurance as required by the city. This, of course, to my council colleagues, is the work that we have been lifting up in our within our city as part of the Department of Public Safety to ensure that we are working very closely with our youth and making sure that those that are victims of crime are supported. So excited to put this legislation forward. I want to ask if there are any questions or comments from my colleagues this evening. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorrance, Favor, Remy, President Harden?
Passed.
Next, I have Ordinance 260-2022 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Safety to enter into contract with the community for new directions for services related to the implementation of the 2022 Neighborhood Violence Intervention Program, to authorize the expenditure of $329,500 from the General Fund, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of Chapter 329 of the Columbus City Code, and to declare an emergency. This, again, is just like the last one, so I don't need to read the background. So I will ask if there are any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorrance, Favor, Remy, President Harden?
Passed.
Next is Ordinance 556, 2022, to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Safety to enter into contract with Performance Consulting Services to train recruits and cadets, to authorize the expenditure of $64,050 from the general fund, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Codes, and to declare an emergency. This legislation authorizes the Director of Public Safety to enter into contract with Performance Consulting Services for training services for the Division of Police recruits and cadets. The focus and scope of the initiative is to provide diversity, equity, and inclusion support services through comprehensive training and consulting to the Columbus Division of Police incoming recruit classes. Understanding that incoming recruits are at varying levels on their diversity, equity, and inclusion performance journey, Performance Consulting Services proposes a three-phased core training strategy to prepare the recruits to address the issues, needs, and concerns in building a 21st century culturally competent police workforce, competent police force, workplace, and community environment. The three-phase training will be scheduled at the beginning, middle, and end of the new cadet recruit training cycle. Performance Consulting Services is an equal employment opportunity employer and is certified by the State of Ohio and City of Columbus as a minority business enterprise and has prior experience training Columbus police recruits on diversity and cultural competence. They've been doing a great job. They've been in this role for a while, and so we're excited to continue this work. Are there any questions from my colleagues this evening? Seeing none, move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Next is Ordinance 677, 2022, to authorize the Finance and Management Director to associate general budget reservations resulting from this ordinance with the appropriate universal term contract purchase agreement on behalf of the Division of Fire for the purchase of fire uniforms from Galls LLC, turnout gear from Lion First Responder PPE Inc., and SCBA equipment from Atlantic Emergency Solutions, to authorize the expenditure of $1,250,000 from the general fund and to declare an emergency. These uniforms and turnout gear will provide replacement equipment for current division personnel, as well as new equipment for incoming recruits. Fire uniform consists of such items as pants, shirts, jackets, and boots. Turnout gear and SCBA equipment is used by firefighters as protective outerwear in firefighting situations. Are there any questions and comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
And finally, this evening, I have Ordinance 838, 2022, to authorize the Director of Department of Public Safety to enter into a grant agreement with Community Refugee and Immigrant Services in support of the Victims of Crime Program, to authorize an appropriation of $53,000 within the Reimagine Safety Subfund, to authorize a transfer appropriation expenditure within the general fund, and to declare an emergency. CRIS's Victims of Crime Program works alongside survivors to build safety plans, promote connection, restoration, and wellness, and to ensure full and equitable access to the justice system. It provides court accompaniment to survivors to ensure that they are able to attend court dates and coordinate communication with prosecutors, civil attorneys, interpreters, and court advocates, while also educating survivors on their rights, laws, systems, and processes. It helps individuals and families reach economic stability and ensure that basic needs are being met. It also engages in systems advocacy, identifying barriers created by institutional practices and advocating for specific improvements that will promote a more welcoming and equitable city for all survivors. The targeted constituencies are foreign-born individuals and families who have experienced victimization in Columbus. Primary populations include Bhutanese, Arab, Hispanic, Latino, Congolese, Somali, Ethiopian, Eritrean, and Afghan communities. Program activities fall under three categories: individual advocacy, outreach, and community education. The proposed budget amendment will allow CRIS to increase staff hours and hire a new full-time bilingual advocate in support of the program. This evening, I'm very pleased that we are joined by Laura Downing, the manager of the Victims of Crime Program with Community Refugee and Immigration Services. Laura, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Ramey. I would like to thank the council for their support. I think many of you are familiar with Chris's work in welcoming refugees to Columbus, but not everyone knows we also support survivors in our Victims of Crime Assistance Program. Chris has served survivors regardless of immigration status in Central Ohio for over 16 years. And like all VOCA-funded programs in Ohio, we've faced massive budget cuts over the last several years. This has made it difficult to continue to meet the needs of survivors during the pandemic and as violent crime has increased in Columbus, as with many other places. While the largest portion of our clients are survivors of domestic and family violence, we also serve families and individuals experiencing types of crime for which there are much fewer services available, such as families of homicide victims, youth violence, and parents of missing children. So this support from the city will help us to start to rebuild what we lost and allow us to expand our services and resources to the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Downing. We appreciate your ongoing work in this area and know how important it is, and so I'm very pleased to put this legislation forward. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues this evening? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Mr. Bangston?
Yes.
Ms. Barosa de Padilla?
Yes.
Ms. Brown? Mr. Dorans? Yes. Ms. Faber?
Yes.
Mr. Remy?
Yes.
President Harden?
Yes, ordinance is passed.
Thank you, Council President Harden. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Seeing no further business coming before council, is there a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Faber, Remy, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned.